What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. First, I want to say happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Make sure you spend time with your friends and family. Stay safe. And I did a video about Kevin Durant going over to the Warriors. It's funny. I got to talk about this real quick. It's funny because there's a lot of comments like, oh, he's a traitor. Benedict Arnold. What a bitch. Bitch move. And you have to keep in mind, I have a channel that I predominantly talk about boxing, right? So I see some of the same usernames. And some of the boxing fans are some of the most turncoat fans in the world. You know what I mean? Because it's mano y mano. So there'll be diehard Broner fans or Chavez Jr. And then when they lose or when Chavez Jr. quits, then all of a sudden they're ripping their headbands off and like, oh, fuck Chavez, he's weak, and bashing them. So it's funny to see people talk about traitors and bandwagons and stuff, because in the boxing world, there are a lot of fans like that. The fighter, when they're doing good in the limelight, everybody's all for them. But when they're in the hot seat, like Canelo is now with the Liam Smith pick, all of a sudden, they're bashing them and they switch. But today is Monday. Let's talk about some boxing. And I got some questions for you guys. I thumbed up the questions that I will be answering, and let's get it in. First question is from Angel B. Ego, if Mayweather comes back, does he come back this year or next year? I think he would come back this year, and I kind of spoke on this on the Ego Rumor Mill video. Reason being is because I think Mayweather is smart in terms of he knows his body, he knows how much he has left in the tank. So by waiting and having a whole year of inactivity for someone who's 38, not necessarily the smartest move. So I think Mayweather, if he is going to try to break Rocky Marciano's record, he's going to want to come back sharp like, I don't know when, maybe October. Something like that. So he'll probably, if he does come back to a multi-fight deal, maybe one fight this year and then fight again next year. But for him to not have fought since last year, Andre Berto fight, I don't think that'd be wise to the whole 2016 calendar year sit that out. So I think Mayweather realizes that it's not the same as when he beat Ricky Hatton and just came back out after 21 months. Next question is from D.T. Taylor. Who should Timothy Bradley fight next, and when will he return? Now, when he will return, I'm not sure. He got a chunky payday, I'm assuming, versus Pacquiao. So he's probably just spending time with his family and relaxing and kind of contemplating his next move, because out of the whole Pacquiao saga, that was the one where he got knocked down twice, and that didn't happen in the other two fights. So that was probably his worst performance. So he has to go back to the drawing board. He has a new trainer in Teddy Atlas, and he has to figure some things out. For me personally, a fight I would love to see that was supposed to happen years ago at 140 would be Amir Khan and Timothy Bradley. I think that's a fun fight. I think it just makes sense. It's a competitive fight. It's a good stylistic clash, and it just kind of makes sense for both. Bradley is a warrior, you know what I mean? So he doesn't back down. And I think maybe he should go in with somebody who's not necessarily a threatening puncher, because he's been through the Ruslan Provodnikov, Pacquiao 3 times, Diego Corrales, guys who can punch and who are tough. Jesse Vargas rocked him. So to me, I think a guy like Amir Khan, that would be an interesting stylistic mesh to see how he deals with someone with that type of speed. And then the same goes for Amir Khan. Coming off a brutal knockout, I would not suggest that Amir Khan go in there with Errol Spence Jr., with Shawn Porter. You've seen how rugged and tenacious he was versus Keith Thurman or Keith Thurman. Those are all very dangerous fights. Even a Danny Garcia, that's a guy who already stopped you, and the world's seen you laying on the canvas lifeless, you know what I mean, in the Canelo fight. So that plus dropping back down from 155 to 147, that weight drop, it just wouldn't be a good look. And we know Tim Bradley, he's tough, he's a good boxer, great boxer, not necessarily the most powerful welterweight. So I think that's a fair fight for both to see where they're at, and it's just a good stylistic clash. Next question is from Shuttlesworth Vlogs. Should Spence move up? I mean, everybody ducking him. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't think you didn't say that, but I don't think he should move up because people are ducking, because it's only a matter of time that people, it's not like they're in two different disciplines. It's not like a Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. That fight may never come off because they're in two different sports. Mayweather's his own boss. Conor has to go through Dana White, things of that sort. They're in the same division. A lot of the welterweights are on the Al Heyman side, so it's only so long that they can duck him. You know what I mean? So I think Errol just needs to keep doing what he's been doing, looking impressive, and it's a matter of time. Like, for, let's say if you're a welterweight like a Jesse Vargas or something, then it's a little bit different because the Cold War is kind of still in effect. So has been the case. So you can kind of use that as a reason for, oh, I couldn't fight this guy. But the people on the Heyman side are most of the top welterweights, the Shawn Porters, the Thurmans, the Danny Garcia, Sammy Vasquez, you know what I mean? Amir Khan, all those guys are with Al Heyman. So it's only a matter of time before he gets the big fights. You know what I mean? Robert Guerrero's over there. There's a lot of fights. Victor Ortiz, Andre Berto, Adrian Broner, a lot of fights. So somebody's going to have to fight him at some point. So I think he should just stay his course, try to push for the IBF Kell Brook Vargas winner. I don't even know if that fight's going on. It's just taking forever. And that's kind of what's been a problem for me with Kell Brook. Great fighter. I like his skill set. I like his style. But since Shawn Porter, he hasn't really faced anybody. And okay, mandatories, whatever. But he wasn't facing competition. It wasn't no Thurman or Porter. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't even mind seeing a Shawn Porter rematch with Kell Brook because Porter looked damn good. You know what I mean? And it'd be interesting to see what he learned. And I think he applied on Keith Thurman some of the things he learned in the Kell Brook loss, to be honest, because he was on Keith Thurman. Like white on rice, a paper plate, a glass of milk in a snowstorm. So Errol should just keep doing what he's doing. I think his team has a game plan, and eventually it's a matter of time. You can't be the boogeyman forever, but I don't think a fighter should have to necessarily move up in those situations. Now with Gennady Golovkin, slightly different. I don't think he has to move up, but he's at an advanced age. He's 34 versus Errol Spence is 26, 27. So he's a little bit later. He's a little bit later in his career. So Errol Spence has time to keep working. You know what I mean? He's not a silver medalist. He's not the one that he's being praised, but he's not being praised like Golovkin, ESPN's top 25 in the last 25 years. So Golovkin's situation is a little bit different, and it's really just because of his age. He's 34, so he may have to move up if he can't get the big fights at 160. Next question is from Chris Willis. Ego, could you possibly see Floyd Jr. returning 450 with the Garcia? Yes, and I made a video about that. I definitely could see that. I think he made it close so he could double bank off the rematch, similar to the Maidana fight. Also, do you think Garcia is a cherry pick? I don't know. Floyd, at first when Floyd used to say that, like, oh, I chose to sit in the pocket in the Cotto fight and the Maidana fight to make it more competitive for the fans, I was like, nah, I don't know, bullshit. But then you see what he did in the Maidana rematch. I think he might have actually been telling the truth, because I think he can. He's such a skilled fighter. He has the ability to make fights a lot harder or easier than they need to be. Like Berto, he was playing around with Berto. That was like the end of his contract last fight. He was literally playing around, having fun in there. Like, he wasn't, you know what I'm saying? He was just joking and toying with Berto. So, yeah, I mean, he maybe did choose to slug it out a little bit more with Cotto, or be on the ropes more than desired, because in the Maidana fight, he was on the ropes a lot in the first fight. The second fight, he wasn't on the ropes like that. So, I mean, obviously he has the brain to adapt and to make those executive decisions. So he clearly probably could have did that in the first fight. The cherry pick thing is ridiculous. Danny Garcia is younger than Floyd. He's strong. He's undefeated. And this is how you know the cherry pick doesn't make sense. When a fighter, Danny Garcia, like let's say Danny Garcia for example, you match him with anybody else not named Floyd Mayweather, even a Pacquiao, and people are okay with that fight, right? People are like, oh, Danny Garcia versus Pacquiao. I've never heard this level of resistance. I never heard anyone say if Pacquiao fights Danny Garcia, it's a cherry pick. And Pacquiao, style-wise, would probably be favored to beat Danny Garcia. You know what I mean? Danny Garcia is a good fighter, good counterpuncher, but based on experience and the awkwardness and the power and the southpaw and stuff, and we've seen Garcia struggle with boxers and speed. Pacquiao's not necessarily a pure boxer, but he's just awkward, and speed for guys like Amir Khan bothered him and cut up his face. So, you know what I mean? Pacquiao being fast, equally fast, and also a powerful puncher, more powerful than Amir Khan at 140, in my opinion, then that's a same thing. You know what I mean? I think Garcia would open up as an underdog. I could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts. But all these fights at welter, and if Danny Garcia fights any of them, they're acceptable. If he fights an Amir Khan 2 rematch, if he fights Keith Thurman, a lot of people I did a video. Go, you guys check the video. I made a video and people were talking about it. Some people are saying Garcia beats Thurman. Some people are saying Thurman beats Garcia. But one thing they're not saying is this is a fight that shouldn't happen. It's a cherry pick. Danny Garcia versus Broner, Danny Garcia versus Porter, Maidana. People are all on board with all of those fights. However, when it comes to a 38-year-old who's more proven than all those guys, if he were to fight Danny Garcia, they say it's a cherry pick. Now, the reason they're saying that is not because Garcia is just horrible. It's because of the stylistic match. They don't give Garcia a chance to beat Floyd Mayweather. But to me, I think at this point, it's Floyd Mayweather's battling Father Time. You know what I mean? So his fights are, from here on out, are always going to be interesting because you want to see, will age catch up to him like a Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. looked unstoppable from like 88 all the way to the early 2000s, right? Undefeated versus, well, actually he had the Montel Griffin DQ with, that was some bullshit. He was beating his ass, and he showed you in the rematch that there was a difference in skill. So to me, that's why it's interesting for Floyd. He's 38, he's proven a lot, and he's always battling younger guys and probably stronger guys and guys who are probably going to rehydrate more than him and bigger. And we want to know if that's going to catch up. So I don't think it's a cherry pick, but I wouldn't pick Garcia to win. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. But like I said, you put Garcia in there with Kell Brook, anybody else, Errol Spence, no one's going to call it a cherry pick. So a young guy fighting a young guy, a top young guy fighting Garcia is okay. It's acceptable for Errol Spence or Keith Thurman to fight him. But for the old guy, it's not okay. It's a cherry pick. You know what I mean? And they're just, again, saying that because they don't give Garcia a chance to beat Floyd. So they're just going to, oh, it's an easy fight. But truth be told, they said the same thing with Maidana. And they said the opposite with Pacquiao. They said Pacquiao was the guy that was going to knock Floyd out and beat him. And Pacquiao is just this phenom. And Floyd doesn't like southpaws. He never fights fast-footed feet fighters. He never fights guys with hand speed. He never fights southpaws. And it was actually the opposite. The guy they said was a Latino, slow-footed, flat-footed fighter like Maidana gave Maidana a better fight and held a better account of himself than Pacquiao, the guy that was supposed to knock him out. So, I mean, I don't pay too much attention because most people don't know shit about boxing. Next question is from Sada El Nigga, whatever that means. Hey, Ego, first thanks to your good work in YouTube. Keep the good work. Who do you think is going to sweep the welterweight division? Errol Spence Jr. I mean, he's just the guy I'm probably the most keen on. Would you like to see Oscar Valdez versus Gervonta Tank Davis in the near future? Yeah, sure. I mean, Valdez looked good against Gradovich, and once Tank gets a little bit more seasoning, that's a mega fight to be made. You know what I mean? So I would love to see that. Actually, clash of styles. People sleep on Valdez, two-time Olympian. He's the only Mexican fighter in history, I believe, to repeat and go to the Olympics twice. And then Tank Davis is being praised as maybe a future Mayweather, and he has good offense. He just needs to work on some other things. But I would love to see that, and I think as they keep winning, that fight will be talked about more and more. Next question is from Ferg FTW. Ego, how do you think HBO expects to sell these pay-per-view fights? Canelo versus Liam Smith, Crawford versus Postal, if they're not giving the fans 24/7 face-offs, etc. I know the budgets have been cut, but a boxing fan like myself has a hard time spending for those fights when we are getting great fights for free with PBC. Yeah, I mean, I think HBO realizes this. Thurman Porter did almost $4 million peak, and it was a great fight with a good co-main event. And the co-main event was a substitute main event, co-main event. It was supposed to be Abnamates versus Cuellar, so imagine that. You would have had two back-to-back wars. So yeah, I don't really know HBO, their marketing standpoint. I heard Canelo's going to come back to regular HBO at the end of the year or something like that. But why? It just makes no sense to me. Why would Canelo Liam Smith not be on regular? If you have a regular HBO date for Canelo, why wouldn't Canelo fight Liam Smith on regular HBO? You know, the fight doesn't make sense to me in general, just because, yeah, he has a title, but that's literally all he has, and how he won the title. He won it through a vacancy, and he didn't even fight the two highest ranking guys. That's what's supposed to happen with the vacant title. It's supposed to be there's a list of all fighters in that division, and there's an open belt, a vacant belt. It's supposed to be the two highest ranking people scrap it out for that vacancy, right? And if one's unavailable or injured or declines, then they move down the list. But that's not what the WBO did, which is why they're getting sued, according to Austin Trout. And the wrong two people fought for it. So I just don't like how he achieved the belt. Liam Smith could be a solid guy, but he hasn't proven that. He hasn't proven that on a world level to the point where you could sell me this fight, right? And then on top of it, to make matters worse, it's on pay-per-view instead of regular HBO. So I'm not really understanding HBO's whole marketing scheme. Like I said, the budget cuts, I guess they've been in the boxing game so long, and they're just like, oh, fans just got to deal with it. And maybe there's a certain small threshold, and if they achieve that amount of pay-per-view buys, then maybe they get their money back. So I don't know all the particulars, but you're right. It's hard to compete with free TV because people keep complaining about Andres Fonfara versus Joe Smith Jr. numbers and stuff like that, but it's on free TV. You don't lose anything. So let's say and that was a good fight because it was a first round knockout. It wasn't like you had to watch in detail for it to open up. I mean, Fonfara hurt Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. retaliated with a perfectly landed flush on the button right hand, and he knocked Fonfara out. He knocked him down. He tried to get back up, and then he got knocked out. I mean, what is there to complain about? But aside from that, it is free. So you really lose nothing other than some time, but you're always going to lose time if a fight doesn't play out. The thing I'm more concerned with is paying money and then the fight not living up to expectations. That's the difference. So if you guys let's say you got a haircut and it wasn't perfect. It was like, it was okay, but you paid $25 for that haircut, right? Would you be more mad getting that same haircut, but you paid $25 for it? Or if your friend, your boy, is an apprentice to a barber and he did your hair and it was okay and he did it for free, same haircut, but one you had to pay for it at a barber shop and you weren't thrilled with it, or the one your boy did in his garage and it's the same haircut, but it was free. So if you guys get the analogy, it's very simple. You would be more angry that you weren't really feeling the haircut that cost you $25 as opposed to the same haircut that was free. And that's the same thing. So even if people hate on PBC, and all the fights aren't bad like they try to make it, but even if they were, you don't have to pay for it. You'd be like, okay, I'm just not watching this shit no more. But that's not the case. The people who condemn PBC continually watch it. Like, it just turned July, the month of July, right? Don't watch any Al Heyman fights, right? So that means you're not watching Deontay Wilder versus Chris Arreola. You're not watching Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Matas. You're not watching Mikey Garcia's return. If you hate PBC so much, and we'll see how much boxing you're watching, you know what I mean? Just watch Crawford and Postal on HBO pay-per-view, since you hate PBC so much, and you hate Showtime so much, right? But they're not willing to do that. They just want to complain, and that's it. So we already know what time it is. Next question is from Santos Aranda. Can you see Arreola upsetting the Bronze Bomber? I wouldn't pick him to, but it's boxing, and these are heavyweights. Chris Arreola, what is he, 250, 260? He's a power puncher. He has heart. He showed a chin in the past, even though Bermane Stiverne stopped him. Because people, you got to know your boxing. Stiverne hurt him bad in the first one. The knockdown was brutal. It looked like he broke his nose. He was bleeding, and he fought through all of that, right? So Arreola got heart. He got mad heart. So it's boxing. Eric Molina was able to shake up the Bronze Bomber. So yeah, I mean, and sometimes when a fight is, you don't know the fighter, or let's say Chris Arreola hasn't been looking great in his recent performances. A fighter may go in there cocky, like, this dude ain't nothing for me. This is just a tune-up fight. And then he gets the Fonfara Joe Smith Jr. treatment. Like, Fonfara was in Chicago with a high Polish population, right? So he was the hometown favorite. He was a 20-1 favorite. Do you think he was worried about Joe Smith Jr. knowing he had faced Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he had faced Adonis Stevenson, etc.? No, he probably wasn't. And that can be more deadly than anything else, underestimating a fighter. So I don't think Arreola would win. I don't think that's a safe bet to pick him to beat the Bronze Bomber. But these are grown men. Arreola's been in there with Klitschko. He's been in there with Stavern twice. He's been in there with quality names. So if he lands something, it's possible. I wouldn't pick it though, you know what I mean? Because I don't pick based on, my predictions, I try to keep it based on what I've seen recently and patterns and stylistic matchup. I don't think the stylistic matchup favors him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arreola can make it tougher than what some people think. Eric Molina did that. They said, who the fuck is Eric Molina? And he made it a rugged fight where he buckled Deontay Wilder before Wilder came back to stop him. So it's boxing. Again, a lot of people don't know boxing like they think they do. Like I said earlier in this video, Maidana was supposed to be the slow one and Floyd was going to easily outbox him, and we seen that first fight. He did better than Pacquiao. He did great. He did better than Canelo, right? Some people were even saying it was a draw. So, I mean, you got to know what you're talking about. And Arreola, I mean, he's a live dog. He hasn't looked good recently. So we'll see. Sometimes people, I mean, there's the other thing is Arreola knows this may be his last shot. You know what I mean? If he gets knocked out by Wilder, I mean, who's going to want to see him, his next fight? You know what I mean? Is it going to be on PBC main event? No, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes all that takes, all that does is motivate the fighter more. So we don't really know. I just wouldn't pick Arreola based on what I've seen recently. But it's heavyweight boxing. Next question is from Mike Hawk. Why is the boxing the only sport without official sanctioning body? Now, I think they could control that. They just don't choose to because there's a lot of corruption in politics. Every other major sport has their own. If boxing had one, we would get all the best fights. There would be no ducking, cherry picking, and other diva bullshit. Fighters would probably get paid more as well, and the sport in general would get more attention as well. It would probably even be as big as the NFL here in the States. The sport has been around so long, maybe even longer than any other sport, and has yet to have its own official governing organization. Yeah, and this is the thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This has been the case for so long in boxing, and they get away with it. So why change it? You know what I mean? Individual promoters can be greedy and put together whatever matches, Pacquiao Bradley 3 or whatever, Mayweather Berto, whatever fight that they want, even if the public isn't requesting it, and then the fans pay it and they tune in. So, you know what I mean? What's the reason to change it? That's how I look at it. So there's a lot of things that are corrupt in boxing, like the judging, and then some of those, like I see judges who had horrible, like Levi Martinez, the 117-111 in the Canelo Lara fight, horrible. And I see him at other fights. I cover the fights and I see him there. So he's still getting booked for jobs. You know what I mean? And there's been judging that's been worse. Like CJ Ross. She said the Mayweather versus Canelo fight was a draw, which clearly it wasn't. You know what I mean? And had she not retired, she probably would have got other jobs too. So they could fix these things. They just choose not to. And the fans a lot of times are dumb enough to just be led astray and go with it. That's why it's important when you see Canelo Liam Smith versus HBO pay-per-view. If Canelo's your favorite fighter or Liam Smith's your favorite fighter, you still got to stand up for what's right in boxing. You know what I mean? You feel that's an HBO pay-per-view quality fight? I have no problem paying for Ward Kovalev on pay-per-view or Crawford Postal. Those are both the most meaningful fights in those divisions, 140 and light heavyweight, period. The most meaningful fight at 154, if that's where Canelo, for the first time in 5 fights, decides to go back to junior middle 154, that is not the most meaningful fight. That is not one of the best fights to me to be made. And then on top of that, you're going to make it pay-per-view? I mean, fans got to do something. They got to stand out. They got to be real instead of trying to accept somebody vacating their belt and going the other direction. It's just, I mean, that's what the fans need to do. And maybe they'll get more results. Not necessarily a sanctioning body or one form of government in boxing, but maybe the promoters will get the hint to stop doing some of the other stuff that they do. Next question is from King Kawane. Who do you think should be Shawn Porter's comeback opponent? I think wins over somebody like a Robert Guerrero or Brandon Rios would keep him relevant until his next big fight. Yeah, I'm okay with either of those. I think I can't confirm this because I didn't see it for myself, but someone told me Kenny Porter or Shawn Porter did an interview and they mentioned Brandon Rios and some other guys. So I'm okay with either of those fights. Shawn Porter, he's gunning for a Keith Thurman rematch. But see, this is the thing. This is the thing fighters should do. It's okay to request that rematch, but you don't want to go into a rematch too prematurely, because what if Keith Thurman beats you again? Then now you have 3 losses on your record immediately, you know what I mean, in a short period of time. It's not wise. So I think he should just let it be the decision that it was, kind of build back up, work on some different things. Guys like Robert Guerrero, Brandon Rios, Andre Berto, you know what I mean? Try to fight one of them dudes, build your confidence back up, climb back up that ladder, and then once you've been doing that, you push for the rematch. But guys like Mike Alvarado, and I'm not comparing Shawn Porter style-wise to Mike Alvarado as to what they can do or their ceiling, but I'm just saying, Mike Alvarado, people forget about this. It is not that long ago where he was an undefeated fighter and he was being praised at 140. He was like a person to check for. It's just what it is. Now he's fighting on Unimas, and he just fought like last week, I think Thurman Porter night, and nobody even knew about it, right? He had another fight before that. He's fought 2 times probably in the last 3 months, and I guarantee you many of you boxing fans never even watched him. You know what I mean? So you got to be smart with your career. The machismo, oh yeah, I don't never back down, all that's cool. But what happens in your career when you start taking on tough fight after tough fight and not looking the same, and not giving your body time to heal, and not giving yourself, your confidence, a chance to grow? It's just not a good look. It's ugly. So therefore, I think Shawn Porter should fight guys like Brandon Rios who could still push him, and then just like I said, climb back up. Next question is from Cristiano Ronaldo. Who is the best rival for Triple G at 160? In my opinion, I would say Danny Jacobs. I would even like a Peter Quillin fight, to be honest, even though he got stopped, just because Quillin's big and he can crack. Clearly, Triple G has a better technique than Quillin, but just sometimes when you have that raw power, who knows? If you land something, who knows what'll happen. But I would say Danny Jacobs. He's tall. I think he's taller than Triple G. Cancer survivor, tough, mentally stable. He hasn't showed a lot of mental lapses. He's lost before, so he knows the fight. You know what I mean? He's had to fight cancer, had to fight back from a loss, a stoppage loss, to P-Rog, things like that. So I would say that would be his best rival. Triple G, I don't know if anyone could beat him at middleweight out of the current crop of fighters. But that, if I had to pick someone, I would say that. I would say Danny Jacobs is probably the fight I would want to see the most. Like Billy Joe Saunders, he's cool, but I don't know, his temperament doesn't lead me to believe that he's confident that he can beat Triple G. And so guys like Triple G, Mike Tyson, you already kind of lost the battle if you step in the ring fearing them. You know what I mean? Look at Matthew Macklin. First time he tasted the power, it's like he panicked and ended up getting his body blasted. So next question is from Knowledge of Self-Determination. Yo, Ego, like the work you put in. Keep it up. 2 questions. What's up with Gamboa? I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Gamboa. I don't think he's with 50 Cent anymore. But last time I heard, he was on Twitter and he said he wanted to fight Vasyl Lomachenko. I would love that fight. You know what I mean? I just don't know how Gamboa would look, because he, after the Crawford loss, I think he fought maybe 1 time. He's been inactive, and he won. But I don't know. He should, before you fight on a beast like Lomachenko, you should probably be a little bit more active. But stylistically, I would like that fight if it's the vintage Gamboa. Last, what do you think about Eubank Jr. versus Triple G? I'm okay with it. Danny Jacobs doesn't look like he's dedicated to pushing the Triple G fight next. Plus, he's likely to fight Sergio Mora. Billy Joe Saunders might fight on the Canelo Smith undercard. Triple G has to fight somebody. So if he's not going to move up, and we're talking about fights at middleweight, I'd say Eubank Jr. is probably the 3rd best option right there. You know what I mean? Quillin, he has a movie about to come out. He gained some weight, so I don't know when he'll be back in action. So to me, people who are kind of readily available to make a fall-time fight, I would say Eubank versus Golovkin is the 3rd best fight that can be made. Next question. Ulysses Castro. Yo, Ego, big fan. Just want to ask two things. One, why do you think your channel has grown so much and rapidly compared to other boxing YouTube channels? Now, I'm not really quite sure. I never really thought about it. And first, it would be the fans. You know what I mean? The boxing fans are great. Showed me a great deal of love. Second, I would say just being passionate and consistent. I mean, I definitely have been that. I've been doing this for long enough. I try to improve, try to get better, try to push the envelope, try to come out with different new creative things like the first look and some original segments and stuff like that. So maybe things like that. And then ultimately, it's just I have a belief system in myself, you know what I mean? I have a vision. Like when I first started doing the boxing thing on YouTube, people were like, what's the end result? What's the point? Like they didn't understand. So you got to make people understand your vision and see what you want them to see. So I just stayed true to that, put out what I felt I would be proud of, you know what I mean? The type of work ethic and the type of programming and segments that I would be proud of. And then the rest it just resonated with the fans or maybe even the haters, you know what I mean? Haters will help you grow too. Sometimes the haters watch you more than the actual fan base. So I think it's a culmination of different things. And the other thing I just keep to myself. Like I cover boxing, I say my piece and try to respond to some fans, and then I keep it pushing. You know what I mean? I'm not really worried about what the next man is doing. That's another thing. A lot of people they watch you and study your moves and take things from you and all kinds of stuff. I'm not really worried about what the next man is doing. I have my own creative brain and I have my own thought process, so I don't really need nobody to tell me what to do next. You know what I mean? So I guess if I had to summarize it and bottle it up, what's been part of the reason to my growth, I would say is those things. Next question is number 2. Have you been approached by any big name boxing media to work with them? Much love from Las Vegas. # new media, # the future of boxing. Now, I haven't been approached by any kind of channels per se. A lot of networks, if you guys have YouTube channels, when you grow, a lot of networks will try to get you. Networks are like basically partners, and then they take you from the YouTube payment structure to their network and you get paid through them, and they try to offer you, it's just like an actor with an acting agent. So that's basically what it is. You're the actor, you're the product. Like, this is my channel, this is my brand, this is my product. And it'd be equivalent to an actor signing with an agency and having an agent, and that agent's trying to find you gigs and stuff. That's kind of like what a YouTube partner is. So I've been approached by a lot of them. Some people endorsers. I got to look into that now that you mention that. But there's a company, I'm not going to say their name, but they work with Anthony Joshua and Amir Khan. They wanted to do some work with me, so I got to respond to those emails and stuff like that. But I haven't been approached by like an HBO or ESPN. HBO probably wouldn't even want me, because I'm gonna speak that real. And so nothing like that, just kind of different potentials, people that want to advertise with me and things like that, work with me, write for me. And next question is from LCD177H. Prince Naseem Hamed versus Floyd Mayweather. Who wins in their prime? Floyd Mayweather all day. Prince Naseem, I told you guys on my channel several times, one of my favorite fighters growing up. I liked it, the showmanship. He made ring entrances cool, the dynamic, the charisma, speed, power. He was fun in the ring. He's showboat. But I really think Floyd would probably have destroyed him. And I think Naseem knew that, because I don't think he really wanted the fight with Floyd. Floyd, I think, more so did want the fight. And it's just a stylistic matchup. I mean, you got to look at it. Prince Naseem stepped up and fought Marco Antonio Barrera, who's a great fighter, a legend. But what happened in that fight? The guy who was like just more the fundamentally sound boxer, less unorthodox, he beat the brakes off him. So what do you think Floyd would do? Especially Floyd in the lighter divisions. Floyd is excellent with boxing fundamentals, technique, technical abilities. He was more offensive, and he had more power, and he has way more speed and things like that than a Barrera. He has better footwork and like faster feet than a Barrera, better defense than a Barrera. So, I mean, all the signs to me point to Floyd Mayweather destroying Prince Naseem in the lighter divisions. It could have been fun for some rounds, but I just don't see Hamed have taken the cake. Next question is from Jordan O'Donnell. What's your thoughts about Frampton Cruz fight coming up, and good luck on the videos. That's a good fight. I think they both ducked Rigondeaux. I think it's safe to say, we all know that. But if I'm looking at that fight independently, it's a good fight. Carl Frampton, he just came off the Quigg fight. That was a tough fight, even though he broke Quigg's jaw. Frampton moving up in weight, taking on a volume guy who's probably going to be much taller than him in Leo Santa Cruz. It's good. And it gets some of the steam off of Leo Santa Cruz, because when he was ducking Rigondeaux and avoiding that fight, he wasn't in the best light. He was kind of where Canelo's at right now for Liam Smith. But since then, he's done some things in his career that have made people forget. I mean, I'm not going to completely forget, but he's in the right direction. He sounds open to fighting Gary Russell Jr. He knocked out Kiko Martinez and looked good in that fight. And he had a war and fought Abner Mares. And now he's fighting Carl Frampton. So it's still good. Even though he didn't fight Rigondeaux, he's not completely going in the wrong direction, right? The only thing people can hold over him is the Rigondeaux fight. Hey, you didn't want it, and you still don't look like you want the Rigondeaux fight. But he is fighting other top-level competitors in his division. So I think it's a great fight. I think it'll be fun. Interesting fight. I don't know who I'm leaning towards. At the moment, at first I was like, Frampton. But I think I'm leaning towards Santa Cruz, because I liked how he looked versus Kiko Martinez. Now, I put it in perspective. Kiko Martinez got stopped by Carl Frampton, lost to Carl Frampton, got stopped by Quigg, and things of that sort. But still, he looked good in that fight. He looked confident. He looked hungry, I guess you could say. And then in the Abner Mares fight, plus Frampton's moving up in weight. He looked, when he fought, one of the things, I think his name was Gonzalez, when he fought in Texas on that first PBC card, Frampton looked like he struggled with guys that were applying pressure. I mean, he got knocked down twice in the first round. He did make some adjustments and adapt a bit, but I mean, against the Leo Santa Cruz, he has good experience. So you don't want to, the guy he fought that knocked him down twice in Texas, the Hispanic kid, he didn't have the Leo Santa Cruz type of experience. So currently I'm kind of siding with Leo Santa Cruz. I think his volume and pressure and stuff is gonna, and he has more experience at that weight division. I think that's gonna edge it for him. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of what I think. And that's the thing. People say, oh, Al Heyman. Carl Frampton signed with Al Heyman. He has a pact with him, and then Leo Santa Cruz. That's a good fight. Even though I'm picking Santa Cruz most likely, it's still not an easy fight. Carl Frampton's a good fighter. You know what I mean? But Carl Frampton, there's little things, like even in the Quigg fight, he let Quigg come back pretty strong in the second half. You don't want to do that with the Leo Santa Cruz, a guy who's going to throw, you know what I mean, 100 plus punches around or whatever. But I thought Al Heyman just puts on the cherry picks. That's a good fight to me, despite who you're picking. And the final question is from Nick Thomas. Since Shawn Porter proved his style can, the top welterweights, I guess you're saying, can't compete, and a lot of people consider Maidana to be a more polished version of Porter, do you think it would be the perfect time for El Chino to make a return? Yes, if he is hungry. I don't want to see Maidana come back and look like a shell of his former self. I love watching Marcos El Chino Maidana. Ole Chino. Like he's one of my one of my favorites. I've always liked Maidana. I like how Maidana is. He's kind of hood. He's from Argentina, from poverty. He just doesn't give a fuck, and that's what I like about him. You know what I mean? And I like how Maidana's the type of fighter that he's competing with the Broners and the Mayweathers, and he's clearly, when you talk about a pure boxing level, he's nowhere on their level, right? He's nowhere. Even Amir Khan, he's nowhere on their level as fundamentally sound boxers, but he still makes it difficult for all them dudes. Still. So I respect that. I respect the grind, that you're not the Michael Jordan. You're the guy that has to probably practice harder and try harder. But he's willing to do that, and he shows an immense amount of heart. Every time you hurt Maidana, he comes back stronger. I seen him hurt in the Josecito Lopez fight. Came back stronger, stopped Josecito. I think he got hurt in the Jesus Soto Caras fight. Stopped Soto Caras. Got hurt in the Broner fight late, held on. Got hurt early the first round versus Khan. Body shot, vicious, got back up, kept fighting, gave Khan hell in the later round. So I love Chino. And you said, I respect the hard work and dedication you put into your videos. Your YouTube's TBE, laugh out loud. Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I would love to see Chino come back if he is focused. If that Mayweather money didn't get to his head where he lost the desire to fight, it's a great time for the welterweight division. Can you imagine Errol Spence Jr. versus Maidana? I love Errol Spence Jr., but I'm telling you, he ain't fought nobody with the power, the unorthodox stance, and the style of a Maidana. That's a hell of a fight. You know what I mean? Keith Thurman, Maidana. You've seen Keith Thurman struggle in spots versus Shawn Porter, and Maidana has a better jab. That jab will help you get into places. So, yeah, the welterweight division is cracking. I love it. Danny Garcia, Maidana. These are all great fights. No matter, you can put Maidana in with any of those top level guys, and it's a great fight. Back in the day, Robert Guerrero and Maidana were actually signed to fight, but I think Guerrero had to pull out with an injury. You know what I mean? I would even watch that if it's his first fight back. You know what I mean? So, great things. Let me know how you guys think I did this week. Monday Mail Day, be back next week. Thank you guys. Have a great 4th of July. Hit the like button, the subscribe button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off.